Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Zoom, from Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube for this panel discussion that has been organized by NTUC U PME Centre. I am Anila, and I will be the moderator for today. So, thank you so much again for joining for this panel discussion. The key agenda for discussion today is to understand the job opportunities in the growing logistics sector. But before we begin, I know all of you are eager to start the discussion, but before we start, allow me to run through the house rules. Firstly, there is to be strictly no recording of this session. Your cameras can be on or off, but there should be no indecent imagery. Your microphones, however, will be put on mute by us to minimize noise disruptions. We, however, encourage you to raise relevant questions to today's topic anytime in the webinar through the chat. Lastly, please do be cordial even if you don't agree with what is being stated. Coming to today's session, it will be divided into 3 discrete segments. In the first segment, we will update you on the logistics sector, the opportunities available, and how each of us can upskill ourselves to prepare for entry in the sector. Next, we will seek to answer questions that you have tabled during registration. Lastly, we will try and take in questions from our Zoom participants, time permitting. With this, allow me to introduce our August panel. Here with us today, we have Mr. Melvin Yong, Assistant Secretary General from NTUC, Director of U Associates, and MP for Radin Mas SMC. As Director of U Associates, Melvin oversees the PMT segment of the workforce. He also serves as the Executive Secretary of the National Transport Workers Union and the United Workers of Electronics and Electrical Industries. We also have with us Mr. Roger Lee, Director of Singapore Institute of Materials Management and the Vice Chairman of Asia Pacific Logistics Federation. He was in the past also an entrepreneur and a visiting professor to many universities in China. He has also co-authored many books like The Making of the Technopreneur, The Making of Shell Live Wire Entrepreneur, World-Class Logistics and Supply Chain Management, and Knowledge Management Principles and Case Studies. Finally, we have with us Mr. Paul Lim, President of Supply Chain Asia. He brings with him more than 25 years of experience in retail, logistics, and the supply chain industry. He also has extensive experience in covering operations, business development, corporate strategic management, IT, and supply chain solutions. Paul founded Supply Chain Asia way back in 2005. Supply Chain Asia is a community that brings logistics and supply chain professionals in Asia to network and learn from each other. So, with this introduction behind us, without much ado, allow me to invite ASG Melvin to give us the opening address. ASG Melvin, please.
Thank you, Anila. Very good evening to everyone joining us on Zoom and Facebook Live. Today's panel discussion is a start of a new monthly webinar series on job opportunities in growing industries amid the COVID-19 pandemic. So despite COVID-19, we do have many companies, many sectors still hiring, and I think we want to encourage them to come on board this webinar series to share with our residents and our Singaporeans on where the job opportunities are. The pandemic is both a public health and an economic crisis. According to the latest labour market report published by the Ministry of Manpower, more than 11,000 jobs were made redundant in the first half of 2020. This figure does not include the large-scale layoffs recently announced by companies such as Resorts World Sentosa and Singapore Airlines. So we can expect retrenchment and unemployment numbers to continue increasing in the second half of the year. While the figures from MOM's labour market report are concerning, the reality is that retrenchment and unemployment would have been a lot worse if not for the swift and decisive measures put in place by our government. Many companies have told me that initiatives such as the Jobs Support Scheme have been instrumental in helping them to preserve jobs and to retain their workers, while the companies work towards transforming for the new normal, even during this COVID-19 situation. Additionally, certain industries have continued to show their resilience even amid the pandemic. The logistics and supply chain industry is one such example. This sector is an indispensable enabler of the global economy, ensuring the flow of goods within the country and across country. Most importantly, medicine and food continue to operate smoothly. Our two panelists today will be able to share with you a lot more. So today, both Roger and Paul are two very qualified speakers. They are very experienced in the industry, and they are able to then share with us important trends that you can be aware of. So let me now end my opening here and pass on the time to our two experts to share their insights.
Thank you so much, ASG Melvin. As you all know, logistics and supply chain is a key contributor to our economy. The sector, as it evolves, will also offer challenging yet rewarding careers that place one at the forefront of globalization and technological advancements. We will thus now like to ask our panelists to discuss more about some of the issues and opportunities affecting supply chain industry during these unprecedented times. I would now like to request Mr. Roger Lee to share his perspectives on the topic.
Okay, sure. Thanks. All right, I think it's it's a very exciting time, in terms of at this moment. What are the opportunities? We always have to look at the opportunities, as the Chinese saying, 危机 present, of course, danger and also opportunities. One of the opportunities we can look at is actually the so-called the trade friction between China and the U.S. The trade friction have actually accelerated a lot of the investment over to the Asia Pac, the Southeast Asia countries. And the Southeast Asia countries include, for example, Vietnam. They have double-digit growth. Malaysia, Thailand, of course, Singapore. And the spillover effect would be a lot of companies that want to reduce especially from China, that they want to reduce the trade friction with America. Investments have actually poured into the Southeast Asian countries. And in Singapore, there's actually a lot of global opportunities whereby companies set up their operating headquarters here, logistics centers here, and that would create a lot of job opportunities for all of us. And at the same time, because of the COVID issue, the supply chain have broken down. And as we know, Singapore is actually very, very open. I think our government ministers and so on are working very, very hard to have what we call green lane, opening up with different countries. So that offers a great opportunity for companies to set up here and be able to still trade, to move their goods and services forward. So I think breaking out of supply chain, the breaking down of supply chain across the region would actually enhance Singapore's position and reputation. Therefore, Singapore is actually well poised to support such development activities. So I hope that all of us, in the midst of a pessimistic kind of environment, can look at the opportunities. At the same time, there's always what we call the gaps. The gaps between jobs and the skills will be widened. Companies need to transform. The digital transformation is actually undergoing right now. Later on, I think both Paul and I will share a little bit more. And the business transformation, digitalization will create what we call a gap in skills and job skills. So there's always a lot of opportunities for us Singaporeans to really upgrade our skills. Recently in October, I just received a letter from the government saying that I got another $500 to upskill myself. At the same time, Singapore has a very unique partnership. I think not many in the world, whereby the business trade associations like SIMM, workers, the unions and the government work together in line. And this to me is a great source of strength in order to work together to meet through the challenges and look through after post-COVID that we are ready for the next growth. Yeah, that's my take.
Thank you so much, Roger. That was indeed very insightful. May I now request our second speaker, Mr. Paul Lim, to share his thoughts?
I'm going to take the opportunity to say hi to a few people because I can see Michael and Jasmine on the Zoom screen. Smile, yes. And of course, my family and friends. But let me go into these questions immediately. Two key terms here, issues and then opportunities. We know the issues, Roger shares some. Melvin, of course, shared quite a bit of it on what is happening to the world today. We are living in a very chaotic and disruptive world for sure. The trade wars, the politics, and the pandemic. In this particular situation that you're seeing, right, the disruption of supply chain does not mean that there is no more jobs. It just means that the jobs got split up, the jobs got a bit more chaotic. You need to know where to look for, you need to know where to find. But let me look at this a bit differently from the supply chain point of view. If the supply chains gets disrupted, does it mean that goods don't flow anymore? Materials do not flow anymore? We know that's not true. You still get food on your table, you still get eggs delivered to you, or at least you go to the shop to buy. Toilet papers are still available in multiple quantities. And of course, masks. We never run out of masks for sure, right? And then look at this, what is going on, and effectively moving forward, and we're trying to identify the opportunities. It may not be in everything that we used to see. We see the retail logistics side suffering a little bit because most of it moved online. But then we also see that the essential goods climb up. Food essential supplies will always be there. Healthcare for sure, pharmaceutical. The luxury goods side, there's a lot of changes, right? We've seen the impact on luxury because of normally in crisis time, people tend to save. They spend on what is necessary, not what is a want. On my end, I actually think that what is happening to the world, essentially marginalizing what is going on. I see an alignment of supply chain, serving both the Asia market and serving Europe and US. And this rationalization of supply chain, we are very well positioned. Right? Singapore is very well positioned because we serve two large regions. And in serving the two large regions, what you essentially see is that some of the supply chains that are being changed has to move through this part of the world in order to serve especially the American market. And the trade war between US and China also means that some supply chain needs to move closer to America. In moving closer to America, not in China means where? Southeast Asia. If it's Southeast Asia means what? ASEAN. If ASEAN means what? We are part of the ASEAN group. That's why we will benefit. I'm optimist, never a pessimist. So I do think that we are in for a good ride, especially because we are based out of Singapore.
Thank you so much, Paul, for your optimistic perspective. And finally, I would like to request ASG Melvin to share his thoughts.
So thank you, Anila. I think both our speakers have covered extensively both the opportunities and the challenges the logistics sector will face in the coming short and longer term. But I think what most of our participants may want to ask is that, what are the jobs available in this sector, right? The logistics sector and the supply chain sector. Perhaps in a short while, both of you could maybe share, what are some of the roles that industry is looking to hire. So, but to our viewers, if you are feeling very overwhelmed right now and think that you need more in-depth consultation about your career and whether the supply chain and logistics sector is the right industry for you, then one of the suggestions is that you can turn to our NTUC U PME career coaches for help. Our career coaches specialize in coaching our PMEs to equip them with a mindset through various services such as career development workshops and job preparation courses. In fact, since we started, our career coaches have served over 1,500 cases. In fact, in August this year, for the first time, we deployed our career coaches to the community. So we have now career coaches in Radin Mas Community Club every Tuesday and Thursday. where we can bring our services closer to our heartland. Many have listened to the advice of our coaches and took on different training courses in order to upskill themselves, get new skills in order to pivot to new jobs. So I encourage all of you who are looking to transit, in fact, even if you are looking to join the logistic and supply chain sector, do feel free to make an appointment to meet our career coaches so that you can explore what are some of the opportunities there are in this particular sector. So with that, I think maybe both Roger and Paul, you want to just share a little quick one on what are some of the job roles that are available in this sector.
Sure. Maybe I'll share first. All right. I guess, that's a very good question. I think for us in SIMM, we run logistics, career logistics courses and so on. Some of the parents, the older parents, they say that, hey, what's logistics? Oh, logistics is driving a lorry, right? Distribute the goods, and that's logistics now. So for 3 years, you study a bachelor's degree in logistics. Does my son or daughter drive a lorry every day to practice? That's logistics now. Deliver and so on, that's logistics. But actually, it can't be, right? So to talk about the career, we can share a little bit. I can share a little bit on what are the various logistics activities. Well, it includes, for example, customer service. Customer service is a very key area in logistics, right? How do we take care of customers? Demand forecasting. When you run a factory, how do you plan for demand? You need special skills in doing demand forecasting, because if you do it badly, you end up with big surplus of goods. You do it wrongly, shortage, you run out of stock, and both will kill the company. All right. At the same time, you got inventory management, you got order processing jobs, you got parts and service support, warranty support, in logistics, you got procurement, buyer, you got a vice president of procurement. Every year, if you can save 10% of the raw material, it can be millions of dollars. So these people are paid very, very well, for procurement executives. And of course, you have another area called reverse logistics. All right, if you buy a product that is no good, people need to send back, you can work in the reverse logistics career. Reverse logistics itself is a big multi-billion-dollar industry. At the same time, you got traffic transportation, you got warehousing and storage, right? At the same time, during COVID, you have what we call security logistics. And this is very, very important, because you need security people, to understand how do you protect your shipment, for example, security logistics. So this is actually very, very wide. It really depends on your acumen, what area you think you especially in the PMET, you've got several years of industry, you are a manager, you're a supervisor, and maybe you're in your 40s or 50s. It's a big range, all right? And what are the challenges, and so on. Perhaps Paul can give another perspective in this area. We share about it in terms of career and so on.
Yeah. I'll take Melvin's question, because I have a different view or different take. At least I come from a different perspective. I view it from industry sector first. So industry, I divide it into the shipper side. So the brand owners, the guys that own the cargo. PM just opened Hyundai. This we call them the shippers. I look at another group. I call them logistics service providers. So the likes of the Kuehne Nagel, DHL, YCH. And then from a bigger perspective, the third group, I call them vendors, ancillary suppliers or players. So those are hardware, software. Our startups will play part of it. The new emerging technology players will play part of it. And from here, I go into another part. I look at the functions. So functions have many levels. We have many silos. So whether it's HR, finance, operations, business solutions, IT support. And then if you relate back to the industry sectors, then you say that under the LSP side, the logistics service providers, basically all these functions can join. So if you are a finance expert or a finance specialist or work in finance or HR before, going to the logistics industry, these areas still exist. It's just that you need some expertise in the industry to function a lot better. I got a third part, which just now I didn't share, and actually I was looking at the levels. So you can join logistics industry and join what we call the rank and file, very operations, hands-on, run, drive. We have drivers who are also supervisors, drivers who are head of operations, but they drive because they are part of the resource. And then you go into the level where we call them the PMEs. I'll tend to term them as the executive managers, the junior to mid-level managers. Those do not really exist in abundance now, but they still exist. And then how do you get in? And of course, the third one is the leadership position. If you look at this entire setup, and then you try then to qualify and segment them industry by by sectorial means. So what I meant is this, right? So let's say we look at the automotive side. Hyundai is a unique automotive player in Singapore. You don't see a lot of them for this kind of job, right? More or less, you see the FMCGs, the pharmaceuticals like the GSK, the Alcon, the Pfizers who are here. And then, of course, we have consumer products groups or maybe a bit luxury fashions, Uniqlo, they're all here. And these guys do employ, or at least these companies do employ. And then if you put all into a matrix and you try to identify are there opportunities there, I do see pockets of opportunities. There are needs everywhere. Companies are still doing their work. There are displacement and there are replacement of work and there are enhancement of work. So if you ask me whether there are opportunities, especially in the logistics industry, let me tell you there are enough actually to fill up whatever we have been displaced.
Thank you for that, Paul. I think, does anyone have any questions to this highly...
In fact, I wanted to ask Paul one more question, right? Just to double click down, right? Because I think in recent times, I visited a supply chain company and I saw for myself high-tech operation center where we track and monitor every single cargo goods that travel from the source right down to the individual, right? So I think we need to give our participants some sense of actually it's no longer the very primitive way of moving something, but really very high tech. In fact, I also visited very futuristic warehouses right here in Singapore where we have seen for ourselves drones and robots doing the picking and the packing. So it's how is the image of what it is and what some of our people think it is. I think perhaps we'd like to debunk some of these images and impressions created of the supply chain and logistics sector. To me, what I've seen is really very high tech.
I let Roger the part that says that we don't expect all our graduates to drive cars and drive trucks and work in the warehouses. I have a friend who says that for all the Hollywood shows, everything that happened, all the bad things that happen, the mafias, the gangsters, is always in the warehouse. So it gives us a very bad name, right? But it is true for sure. I think there was one question about emerging technologies, and we are looking at those technologies already. These technologies are being applied in the logistics and supply chain world. It's not as extensively as we wanted. Robots that pick goods to a man, and then the men stay where they are and they become much more effective. NTUC has it, and they call it Auto Store. They have the robots where the guys are all standing around it. We have folks whereby they work with machines that bring the cargoes to them. We have robots that follow a human so that you carry things within a robot. Within the robot, you actually have hydraulic arms strong enough to carry 100 kg, so you don't have to carry 100 kg. We actually think that we actually are observing that the mundane, repetitive tasks in logistics and supply chain are being taken away and given to automated processes. And that does not mean that we lose our workers, it's just that now the workers are freed to do more other work. And they actually can do their work more effectively and efficiently. We do see that. I can only say that it is not enough because it means that there are a lot of opportunities for our companies to go into this. There are a lot of opportunities for our people to learn the new skills and then join the setup. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Paul. Clearly, the future is already here. Okay, may I ask you, so what does this mean for the workers who are already there? Do they need to upskill in any way? Because clearly, from what I can hear you saying, the jobs are going to get redesigned.
If they don't upskill, SSG has to close down the whole job. Yeah, just say that. Okay, I mean, folks like me and those who are watching me on screen, if you are 35 and above, there's a good chance you need to go and reskill and relearn because there are a lot of changes going on that we are not there. Those below 30, there's a good chance that they have some of this training already. They do understand these new skills that they need. But they are quite emerging technologies. which means that a lot of skills and knowledge a lot of us don't have. So my only point of view is that we all have to learn. We all have to relearn and reskill.
So for the benefit of our participants, would it be possible for you to share 3 or 4 things that they should be focusing upon, the workers who are currently there already in the industry?
Okay, one thing for sure, don't be afraid of robots. I think Lawrence Wong said it very clear. They are not here to replace us yet, right? So when the robots are working with you, do not sabotage the robot, do not kick them, do not try to make them fail. I have seen people who try to make robots fail. That's for sure. Don't rush to go and learn coding. That's not the deal. There's a good chance that you'll never be a great coder because you never started in that, right? So don't go and rush and don't go and learn coding immediately. There are Python coding, basic of Python. You can go and learn to appreciate it because the entire idea is you need to know how to apply. So application is more important. I would think that getting basic knowledge of what RPA is, robotic process automation, understanding the difference between artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning, don't just listen, right? And then autonomous technologies, automations, robotics, I mean, these are all terminology. You read, you think you know, you actually don't know. And then go and find out more. One of the best way to learn is not just to read from Google. Google has too much information. And we have many courses. I mean, the CCs run courses as well. Go for courses. They are all short and they are run by experts. They have to be run by experts. It doesn't work. Nobody can stand up there and then tell you RPA, robotic process automation, and smoke you all the way. Impossible. You need to have basic knowledge in order to do it, right? Then go and learn all this. And then once you appreciate it, some of them are skills that you can apply immediately. RPA is easy to apply. Once you actually understand how it's being used, there are a lot of platforms for you to create bots. Create robots, the real robots, I don't think it's your job. I believe it belongs to someone else, but your ability to work with the robots, that's what you need to learn.
Thank you for that. That was indeed insightful. May I now request Roger to also share his thoughts on this topic?
Okay. I think my perspective is a bit different from Paul. I think Paul's mentioned a couple of areas, for example, RPA, robotic, and so on. But to me, there's another perspective that it is very, very important. For someone, if someone go take a course, for example, on what we call logistics analytics, or very high-tech, deep language, and so on, it doesn't mean that when you go to the company, you can get employed so easily. The reason is this. In order to apply some of this technology, you really need to go to a company to start to understand the system first, rather than pick up the technology and apply the technology. I think in SIMM, we implement a few technology with some companies, and sometimes when companies employ technology for technology's sake, the chances of success is actually not very high. But rather, the person that go in have to go in under what we call operation system first. In other words, go in not very high, even if you are PMAT, you go in at what we call operational level. Understand your system. You understand how the company do their invoicing, how the company do the delivery. And then later on, when you pick up the digital skills, the technology skills, then you find that it's very easy to apply to the company. Sometimes if you do the other way around, get all your stuff up in terms of technology, then you go to the company and apply, it may not work because there's what we call resistance to change, understanding of the processes, and so on. So I always feel that for people that wants to go into logistics career, they really need to understand the company's domain process first, right? So that would mean that you need to do what we call be a bit more patient, understand, and then and understand the company culture, understand the processes, and then later on, when the opportunity arises, to see how you can use the technology to really upgrade and to improve the system. So in that respect, I think it carries a lot more weight. So that in that respect will create less gap between the expectation of the employer, expectation of the potential employee. So I think that will make some sense.
Thank you so much for that, Roger. I would now like to request ASG Melvin to contribute his thoughts.
So from what I hear, it's quite simple, right? As long as you have a willingness to learn and the ability to work with technology, with robots, like what Paul say, don't be afraid of them. just don't sabo them lah. Huh? Yeah, the robots are here to help you to be able to do your job better. So can I just ask that actually, that means I don't really have to have a certain skill sets to be able to take on many of these roles that both Roger and Paul have described. Are there training that are easily available? That means I said, oh, you know, I'm now so excited by the opportunities that are available in this sector. Then tomorrow I'm going to rush to sign up for some of these jobs. But are there training that will be available to then help me gain the skill sets needed to take on some of these jobs? Maybe Roger like to share some of these.
Yeah, sure. I think at this moment, because you know, if you have read the recent report, you know, by Ministry of Manpower, the shortages in terms of skill set, logistics is one of the key shortages. Logistics is one key. At the same time, the other one is the security, also big shortages. You know, these are two areas, and of course there are actually a lot of institutions that are actually offering logistics courses for example, rank and file and also PMET. Of course, SIMM is just one of them. You have got SMU, you've got Supply Chain Asia, you know, which Paul is running. You've got the Polytechnics, the ITE, and many other institutions. So what kind of courses are available? You know, and a lot of them are actually SSG funded. So what kind of courses you feel you think you want to go to? You have to really study, as I mentioned earlier on, which segment of the logistics industry you like to do. For example, reverse logistics, for example, accounts management, marketing. You know, it's very wide. You know, Paul mentioned about, for example, third-party logistics provider, people like UPS, FedEx, Kuehne+Nagel, YCH. You know, they right now facing quite a big shortage of PMET that can do supervision, that understand logistics arena. So in fact, if you go to Google, you just search logistics courses, wow, you can see so many, you know, available. So whichever you take, it really depends on your interest. At the same time, for jobs, recently we also do counseling for some of our graduates. When I click in logistics jobs in Singapore in Google, you try now. Wow, you can see so many jobs available, from rank and file to supervisory and to managerial. So actually there are plenty. So therefore, there are actually a lot of opportunities right now, and the government is pushing very hard on logistics because it's the pillar. You know, as I shared earlier on, logistics is a function that anything that moves, they will require logistics talent. Anything that moves, you know, whether it's food or anything, you know, anything that moves, you need logistic expertise, right?
Thank you so much, Roger, for that. Thank you so much, ASG Melvin. We now come to the end of our first segment. We'll now move to the second segment. In this, we like our panelists to address some of the queries that were submitted at the time of registration. So allow me to share the first question. This is from Mr. Samuel N. I would request Paul to possibly answer that. I'm now in a different industry. How can I do a career switch into the supply chain industry?
Same question, actually, tackling from what Melvin was asking. This industry is a very generalized industry, unlike let's say accounts, finance. If you want to go into you want to be an architect, you have architecture. You want to go into computer programming, you must have a computer science. This is one of the industry that does not really look at your initial qualification to come in. But that does not preclude the need to learn. So what makes sense? I believe it, so I created it. So I'm trying to say is that what makes sense is you definitely need the basics of the industry. But when you first join, your current skill sets, I'm sure you have maths, you have science, you can communicate, your current soft skills, current hard skills, some of you are process engineers, or some of you are very process-oriented, very detail-oriented. Industry like this fit you. Some of you are in sales, business development. guess what? There's a lot of opening and job roles in pre-sales, project management, pre-sales, post-sales, account management relating to marketing and business development, right? And some of you are very IT-oriented. There are a lot of IT-related work in the logistics industry. So if you ask me and says that I used to be from finance, I think within my group that I'm training today, I have folks from finance, real estate, interior design. I would say that basic knowledge needs to be, you need to get basic knowledge. So what is basic knowledge? What is warehouse management? What is air freight management? What is sea freight management? What is multimodal transport management? Trade compliance, understand what is trade block, trade regulations, trade facilitations. Those are basic knowledge. Those are must-have. So if you don't have it in the industry, you want to join the industry, it is only about what, 1 to 3 months program, and what Roger says, you can find it everywhere else. You don't have to look for supply chain agent, we have some of it. Okay, was I doing marketing? Okay, so, but that's just one part, just to have fun, right? But then the idea really is that all the polytechnics for sure, all the IHLs for sure, under the SSG program today, where you can use SkillsFuture credit for sure, such program exists, basics. Once you get the basics, you get started. But then the industry is transforming. So if the industry is transforming, you need the other part of the skill sets. And that's one that I believe that is all over the place. You want to learn Internet of Things, there are people running Internet of Things, but tend to be too technical focused, not really on the applications. So you need to find those with applications. There are people who are running robotics, they teach you how to build robots, but robots as a toy. How do you engage robots for robotics adoption in the company? So I do see that there are two parts to it. One part is joining the industry as it is now, the traditional work. You need some basic knowledge. And then as you grow within the industry, and I'm sure you want to grow your career in the industry, if you come and join this industry, the transition in the industry and the growth part, you definitely need more skills. Going deeper, understanding some of the analytical work that you need, some of the processing work that you need. Yeah, I do think that I think there are trainings around, right?
So thank you so much for that, Paul. I mean, it's interesting to note that there is nothing that training and ability to apply prior learning in the industry context would not help bridge. So with that, I would like to ask if Melvin, ASG Melvin, would you like to add to this?
Yeah, I think what Paul has laid out, and I think earlier the discussion was already quite useful in terms of letting us have a sense of what is needed, right? There are many schemes in place, in fact, to support our Singaporeans who wish to transit to another industry, to another job. I think there are, I lost count the number of professional conversion programs we have. I'm sure the logistics and supply chain have their own, and I think we are constantly designing new training programs to assist Singaporeans who wants to take up new jobs in the sector. So I think the assurance really is that the training are available, and then the next question will be, oh, what about the costs? So I think earlier, Paul has also explained there are also various subsidies and training grants available. So really, if you are looking to join this sector or any other sector, and you really don't know where to start looking, so I think the easiest way then is to suggest that you write to us, and NTUC would help to, maybe guide and direct you to the areas that you are looking in. Where are some of the training programs? Where are some of the jobs? I think what's important feedback that I've been receiving really is that if I go for this training, will I eventually get this job? Right? So this is where the challenge the individual face. And then from the company is that, unless you have these skill sets, then it's very difficult for me to hire you. I think that's the matching that we need to be a lot more tighter in terms of the ability to get the right person with the right job skills to the right job. I think that's where I think we have been working very closely with each other, how to do that closer match. Otherwise, if I go and spend a few months or a few weeks taking up this training course, and then will I eventually get to have that particular job that you mentioned and you described?
Can I take this?
Absolutely, please.
We have a joint developed program with SMU Academy, and we run it as what we call the Advanced Diploma in, it's very lengthy, Advanced Diploma in Logistics and Supply Chain Management and Transformation. And the idea behind this program is actually under SG United Skills Program. So under SG United Skills Program, if you are displaced, unemployed, and you go into this program, you pay a very low fee, supported by SkillsFuture credit. You actually in the program for 6 months. Half the program you are in class for training. The other half of the program you actually assigned to a company. And one of the exciting part about this program is to get company to accept a transition executive like an intern, but it's an adult. Work in the company for the next 2 or 2.5 months, assimilate, learn, experience, understand. More important, the other side, get to see them for who they are. Also appreciate them for the skill sets, the knowledge, the experience that they have. And at the end of the program, convert. Right? I'm in the midst of placing my trainees. I have about 20 of them into companies in the next 6 weeks. No, 4 weeks. Mid of November, they go into the attachment. We do find it challenging because some companies, because they are under this program, they're already getting a stipend from the government. So the company actually don't pay them allowance. The government actually pay allowance already. So for the company, it's almost a risk-free model, but it's actually not risk-free because the company still need to engage them and mentor them. We found some resistance at first because they're like, what do I need to do with them? But after a while, we also found that the companies realized that, well, this is actually almost a risk-free approach. And they started to say, okay, I want to see the real skill sets your trainees may have. So they started to look at the profile. And when they started to look at the profile, they realized that there are skill sets, like what I say, because this industry is a bit agnostic. It looks at general skills. And they say that, okay, why not we start taking? So my confidence is that by mid of next month, I will place all my trainees in various projects and in various companies. My not so confident part is by the end of January and mid-February, will I convert 100% of them? But I will tell you that I will at least convert 50% of them. Because those companies who have engaged all these trainees, who have seen that they are all workers, they are passionate, they are learning. In fact, they took on the program for all this, and the conversion will happen. So this is the kind of thing that I believe our industry have, and it's good for everyone.
Thank you so much, Paul. We wish you the very, very best to place your candidates. But moving ahead, we move to the next question. It's from Miss Angelina Go. Her question is, what are the upcoming trends in the industry and how can I keep pace? May I request Roger to respond to this?
All right. I guess the industry is actually moving towards what we call digitization. Digitization in a simple, how do we look at our ability to transform? I think the trend is the mindset of transformation. So when candidates go for job interview and so on, companies are looking for people that have got what we call the transformation mindset. But in the logistics sector, all right, the transformation mindset have got only one word. I think for logistics, it's very important to have that skill set of what we call integration, right? Because logistics is actually not a standalone, I would say, a discipline, because you have to work with many stakeholders. So your ability to integrate, for example, integration of procurement, raw materials, integration of suppliers, integration of, for example, carrier, people who drive your goods, and so on. So if your ability to able to integrate, to make it into a single non-stop movement, is actually logistics. So that kind of the important trend would be the ability for companies to succeed is the way they are able to integrate. But to integrate, you need technology, because in the past people use what we call Excel spreadsheet, to pull in data and so on. But now companies will use technology system like SAP. Of course, SAP is on the very on the higher end. There are many other new technologies that company can use to do integration, like software as a service, where people do not have to pay a lot of money, but they pay by license and so on. So the trend is towards what we call digitization and transformation. So the mindset of digitalization and transformation becomes very critical. A simple example is, in the past, when someone delivers goods to you, right, they will give you a piece of paper. Can you sign? Right. After sign, the guy will keep the paper and then go back and file it in their office. All right, the delivery guy. But not anymore. right? You hardly see this kind of processes, because nowadays they will hand you a mobile phone. Sir, can you sign on a mobile phone? And straight away when you sign, right, you immediately go into the cloud, and immediately straight away the invoice, everything is sent out and ready. So I think all these are very, very important transformation technology that is moving very fast, at a very fast, rapid rate. So this kind of trend will go on even at a faster rate. So if we have that in mind, our mindset has to be able to, the word I used earlier on is integration, transformation, and ability to apply some of the technology. I think it will be very well suited for the career.
Thank you so much. Would anyone like to add to this, Paul?
Yeah, I want to add to that. Because I think the question was talking about how do you keep pace. How do you keep track of iPhone development? You keep track, right? Do you buy? Do you keep on changing your phone because you're trying to keep track of the technologies? I think the more important part is how do you really learn what is going on? We are talking about emerging and new technologies. They're not in textbooks anymore, which means that lots of watching shows, participating in, I used to say participating in events, seminars. Today we don't have webinars. Listening to folks like us. It's really seriously that. How do you really keep pace? There are a lot of knowledge down there. Learn how to decipher what are the ones that make sense, what are the ones that not. A lot of people are talking about blockchain. Blockchain came out from cryptocurrency, it came out from Bitcoin. It became popular because of that. Doesn't really affect us as much now. Future, yes, because it is one way of encrypting sharing of certain information. Okay, so don't get away from that. But how do you really keep track? I would suggest that spend more time. There are a lot of webinars, they are free. Go and Google them, go and find them, go and join. Really don't know where to go. Go to each of our websites. I'm sure we have events there that you can join. That's where you learn. You learn all the trends. Then, as the trends are being shared by experts, you learn what the experts are saying. Experts normally have a shorter way of explaining what's going on. And then also, from there, you can identify programs and to attend. Seriously, that's how you keep pace.
Thank you so much for that, Paul. So, Angelina, what we need to do is we need to stay alive to what's happening around us, learn to apply, and be open to learning. So, with that, I would just like to check, would you like to add to that?
I honestly think that we underestimate ourselves, because all these trends are actually happening around us almost every day, right? So for example, if you really talk about supply chain, actually e-commerce, many of us, in fact, almost all of us, buy things and it gets delivered to you. It's part of the whole supply chain process. So we do encounter some parts of it. Technology, use Zoom, as what we earlier mentioned. Before COVID, we have never ever heard of the word, right? And today, I think many of us are quite familiar and have been using it quite regularly. In fact, recently I signed an MOU virtually using blockchain technology, and they said it's good enough, or even, in fact, even more secure than putting it out in a pen and paper and filing it away. So all these are things that are taking place even as we speak, and many people would have been part of it on a daily basis. So I think really is the increasing use of automation in our supply chain sector is already happening. And I think we can't stress enough, we have repeated it many times, the ability to work with robots and with technology. I think we must not be fearful of that, right? But then again, I like what Paul said, that there's no need to go and start taking coding courses, because it's really about working with it, right? So we have been pushing a lot of data-related courses. So the thing now is about being able to use the data, right? Data literacy, data management, data analysis. So you don't have to do the technical part, but you must be able to make use of all this. And I think that is highly critical in our supply chain and logistics sector, because I've seen for myself how, now you can literally track the goods that you buy from the warehouse in another part of the world, right? Just using your mobile phone, all the way until okay, it's going to come tomorrow, and it's quite accurate,
Yes.
right? So this is what we are talking about in today's context of the supply chain industry and the logistic sector. No longer just the lorry driver, it's just about driving. Yeah, but it's really beyond that, and there are plenty of job opportunities in this sector. And I would like to encourage all our participants who are watching us right now, if you really consider a change in your job, do consider coming and trying to take a look at what are the opportunities available in our sector.
Thank you so much for that, ASJ Melvin. We'll now move to the next question. It's from Mr. Eric Ko. I would request Roger to possibly try and respond to it. The question is, what do each of you feel is the best way to reskill and redeploy people whose jobs are lost, whose jobs are at risk due to COVID and technology?
Okay. I feel that, before we talk about reskill and so on, if we talk about the logistics sector, it is very important to look at what we call the mindset. All right, the mindset is actually very, very important because in the logistics industry, the ability to work very, very quickly, the mindset, how fast, because in the logistics industry, you are actually, a lot of times, people who are in this industry are actually on standby because the industry is such that there are a lot of things that is happening that you won't expect, especially nowadays. For example, your shipment is going to this country, but because of COVID, the country shut down, for a couple of days. So you have to quickly think of another way to still ship your goods, maybe not by sea, but this time by land, for example. So your brain, you keep on anticipating, what problems and so on. So I think that's the first part, is on the mindset for logistics in the logistics industry. Your mindset has to be there, that there will be always challenges because it's very, very different from any other career. That's number one. And then once your mindset is there, and then you will realize that there will be a lot of opportunities in terms, for example, certain companies may require people that they need very urgently, all right, to think of a new process, think of a new mode of growth. Then you can join in. You can reskill. We really touch on. There are many various courses available that you can take on, and those people whose jobs are actually, I would say, at risk, they can actually prepare mentally and say that, what are the job openings that are available in the logistics sector that you can look at, and so the question would be really how proactive you are, in this challenging time, and go to every, like what Paul have mentioned, go to every part of the industry and search for opportunities, and there will definitely be one that will be very suitable for you, I'm sure.
Thank you so much for that, Roger. We're actually now left with only 10 minutes, but I see a lot of questions there on Zoom. So maybe we can have just one question before we start winding up the session. May I request Sean to share his question?
Hi, good evening, panelists. Just want to know what are some of the funding schemes that I can take to offset the cost of taking logistic courses. I'm actually very interested in finding a job in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe Roger, you could respond to Sean's question.
Okay, can you repeat the question again?
The question is that he's looking at what are the funding schemes that he can use to offset the cost of these logistic courses.
All right. Okay, actually, there are a couple of funding schemes. Of course, if you are NTUC a member, all right, you can actually pursue some of the courses. SIMM has got some logistics courses. NTUC members do enjoy a special discount. And at the same time, a lot of the courses, various institutions, not only SIMM, they can use the Skills Future Fund. the $500 SkillsFuture Fund, and of course now increase, in October there's another increment of another $500, so close to $1,000 you can use. At the same time, there are many courses under WSQ, whereby participants only pay 10%, the rest comes from the government, 90%. All right, so there are actually a lot of courses right now available. So for those who are not NTUC members, when you join, you can also get a couple of funding as a NTUC member. So no issue right now. All right.
Thank you so much, Roger. I'm sure Sean would be very happy to hear all the details that you've shared. With this, I would actually like to request ASG Melvin to share his closing remarks before we close the session.
So thank you very much, Anila. I think we have had a very interesting, fruitful discussion on the job opportunities within the logistics and supply chain industry. So to all our Zoom and Facebook audience, we really appreciate your interest and your time in engaging with us online. I'd like to express my appreciation to both our panelists, Roger as well as Paul, for sharing your insights. I think that's what's important, is that I hope that through this 1 hour of sharing, we have given our participants an overview or hopefully some exciting information of what are some of the opportunities available despite the ongoing economic challenges that the whole world is facing. And thank you also to our wonderful moderator, Anila. In the coming months, the NTUC U PME will be sharing more about job opportunities in other growth sectors, such as the Infocom technology and media sector in November, and the healthcare sector in December. I think next year we are also lining up a lot more of various other sectors that have approached us already to share more about the job opportunities available in their industry. So through our series of panel discussions, you'll be able to hear from our industry experts and learn about how you can best transit to these industries. I think both of our panelists today, they are veterans in the industries. They could share very candidly what are some of the skill sets needed, what are some of the challenges needed, what are some of the things that you should look out for if you plan to join the industry. So thank you all very much once again for joining us tonight, and I hope to see all of you at our next webinar. So back to you, Anila.
Thank you so much, ASG Melvin. With this, we've come to the end of our panel discussion, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for sparing time, sparing your evening to join us. Hopefully, we shall see you in future webinars too. We know that we've not been able to answer all the questions that were put forward, and please do rest assured that our team will reach out with the feedback, and should you wish to connect, you too can drop an email to our team at the NTUC U PME Centre. The email address is pme@ntuc.org.sg. With that, thank you very much. Have a great evening and best wishes. Thank you so much.